Call the Brandon Select Board to order for April 11th. Thank you all for coming tonight. I thought I'd start with a haiku. I have a haiku. Lovely spring, oh wait a minute, yes, lovely spring evening, cellar, bunker, windowless. We're so glad we came.
Haiku.
Thank you. Is there a motion on the agenda?
I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda.
Is there a second? I have something to add, if I could. After item 9, if we could add 9A, second executive session, it would be regarding contracts per 1 V.S.A. 313A1. And we'll have a motion to find that premature general public knowledge would place a person involved at a substantial disadvantage. To do that.
Can we have any understanding of which
Oh yes, I checked it out to the...
which department or which contract we're talking about?
Yeah, the contract involves the library construction project.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Yep. So I would suggest that for 9A. Any other additions to make to the agenda? No. If not, all in favor of adopting the agenda as we just amended it, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous. Item 2 is approval of the minutes of March 28th. What's the pleasure of the board?
I'll make a motion to approve. I'll second.
Any errors or omissions in the minutes as they were posted? If not, all in favor of adopting the minutes that were submitted by the recording secretary, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say no. You guys have it. Item 3, the town manager's report, Mr. Atherton.
Sure, it's my report for April 11th. The Brandon Fire District 1 and 2 connection bid opening was held at the town offices on April 5th. The apparent low bidder was Jack Bowen at $78,238.25. This covers the installation of the new pipe and valves as well as discontinuing the old pump house. This is from the ARPA funding that was approved by the select board for the districts to connect. So we're excited it came in at that number for construction. We did not receive the Transportation Alternatives Grant for the Carver Street Sidewalk project. There was an unusually high amount of applicants for this round. There was only 2.5 million available. I think V.S.A told me there were 27 applicants, so it's all right. We get them pretty much every year, so good for someone else. I attended the Regional Emergency Management Commission meeting on April 5th. We adopted bylaws, also had 2 guest speakers from Vermont Department of Public Safety to discuss the roles of the Regional Planning Commission. Just as you guys know, I think I told you before, it's a new regional commission that we had to form one, but didn't really have any guidance, so it's getting better. I attended the April 11th Rhode Island Region Transportation Advisory Committee meeting. Discussion was had on project selection and prioritization for state highway roads and bridges within the county. The TAC updates this list annually and submits it to the state for project funding consideration. We don't really have anything on our state highways because we've done them all. So like the bridge in Pittsburgh is one of the big ones, a couple of their areas, that's what they look at are the state highways. So they take our list as a recommendation for that work getting done. Sean and I have been preparing the roadwork list for the annual municipal roads general permit work. This work is funded by the annual grant. We last year received $17,500 for this year's work, and we'll be submitting that list to the RPC for approval and authorization on that. Sean's looking at probably Wheeler Road and Town Farm Road mostly, because this year it covers, I think it covers culverts this year and gravel. So when we do the ditching and everything, we actually can get reimbursed for gravel. So that's good, really good this year. Received one of the 3 appraisals for the next round of property buyouts on Newton Road. I did speak to the landowner today. They are excited to move forward with that, and hoping to get the other 2 soon. The appraisers have been having some difficulty getting into both buildings because they are landlord-tenant situations. So, and one thing I wanted to add on here is I gave you guys a letter from the Rutland Town Select Board on state dispatch. So I know that Chief's on with us tonight too about this. I did reach out to our state representatives on this today, and They're not too alarmed about it yet. If I could just actually read you a quick blurb from what Representative Shaw sent me earlier. So I asked him what he heard about this, and he said that we should know that the proposals from the Department of Public Safety to discontinue dispatching services immediately has hit a roadblock in the current budget bill. The bill set aside $11 million to support the transition from state dispatching to regional services. But before this happens, the Commissioner and others are to present a concrete plan for the transition to the legislature next January. If this plan is not approved by Appropriations Committee, the money for transition is not approved, and therefore services are kept as is. So, Butch said he'd be more than happy to sit down with any of us and discuss it. So that's where it's at now. I don't want you guys to get alarmed with this letter from Rutland Town yet. And last, I will be on vacation next week. I'm actually starting it this Thursday, so I won't be back until the 25th of April.
Did you want to do the rec report, or do you want me to call in this?
Oh, no, I can do it. That's right there. That's the letter.
From the.
Oh, okay. Rec department news. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu classes on Saturday at on Saturday at Pillar Pilates Studio 3. I'm reading this, they'll screw me up, just trying to find this one. 3 to 5 p.m. with Sensei David Belanger, or is it Bellinger? Belanger? Drop in $10 per class, ages 12 to 97.
Why did they stop at 97?
Really? And what are you gonna do if someone Poor people. We have partnered with OV and the Adaptive Martial Arts Association to offer Monday after school AMAA Kick and Fit OV program. 7th through 12th graders can sign up for free for fitness and PE credit. We have planned the Safety Day to coincide with Neshobe's PTO Kindness Day on May 14th. The Brandon Fire, Rescue, and Police Departments will be at Neshobe School starting at 10 a.m. The OMIA Bike Helmet Program, along with the Brandon Area Bike Association Bike Mechanic Workshop, serves as a perfect complement to the Safety Rodeo. And Wildlife Encounters return to the Town Hall on April 15th. Come check out a fun animal show.
It's quite a coincidence, Wildlife Encounters and your first day of vacation, Dave. I wonder if it's like Clark Kent and Superman.
That very well could
In
be.
the same place. Any questions for the town manager from the board? Questions, comments?
I appreciate the telling us what Butch wrote, and it sounded like you were going to forward a copy to Charlene. Could you forward one to the board as well? I'd be
Yeah, I
curious.
just sent it to Seth, but I can pass it on to you guys.
Anyway, so I can just see it. I mean, it seems, it's like on here, is it true that the June 30th, 2024 is the current discontinuance date?
Well, not now, because Butch just said they haven't gone through the.
But it won't be any
process yet.
sooner than that.
No.
Yeah, that seems plenty of time.
But Chief has been meeting with other area, like Middlebury, Bristol, I think, for Jens. So they've already been in discussion about this for a few months.
And then will there come a time when the board will have to make some decision about whether we're going to be part of some regional effort to?
It's probably going to come to the point where we don't have a choice. I mean, we've been talking about this for many years that, even back to Chief Raquel, I mean, almost 5 years ago, this discussion came up that, they were looking at getting rid of state dispatch and it would be back to local. So, and at that time, we were looking at the possibility to fund it for, it was like each town was, that was quite a bit of money.
Yeah, it was in the
So-
30s, I think.
So we may have this as a future agenda item sometime.
Oh, there's no doubt that will
Thank you.
come back up again. I'll send this to you guys right
Anything else? No. Questions from the public for the town manager? Questions or comments for the town manager from the public in the room tonight? Mike Frankowitz?
Did the town or the manager know about the beavers damming up the Neshobe River?
now. Where are they doing that?
Just north of the west end of Newton Road, through the cornfield.
No?
It's already dammed up.
Oh, there's a huge pile of debris that's been down there since Irene.
Well, they've been chewing the trees too. Yeah, they're in there.
There's not really much we can do about it. We can contact the state and let them know.
Yeah,
but,
well, that's what you can do, that's what you have to do. River management people will take care of that.
Yep.
Thank you, Mike. Others in the public tonight, in the room? There's always public comment opportunity on every agenda item, and we will do some dedicated public comment in a moment. How about folks on Zoom? Any questions for the town manager from the folks on Zoom? Thanks for being here tonight. Hi, Jan, Angelo, Chief Kachadian. Great. Dave's always able to answer questions anyway, outside of his report time. So this is the dedicated public comment and participation. We can start with the board. Anything that's not on the agenda that you'd like to bring up? Over here, over there. Folks in the room.
Yeah,
Jim
I
Emerson.
know on your agenda is a discussion on, beginning discussion on ARPA funds. And the Energy Committee would like to request that we be included on your next agenda to consider some proposals that our Energy Committee has for use of those ARPA funds. And we'll,
Sure, is that something, Dave, could you ask Elaine to, I know she starts next time's agenda, like tomorrow morning kind of thing.
Yep.
Could you ask her to put some spot for the Energy Committee about ARPA?
and we'll submit a little,
Little
we have a
background.
meeting next week and we'll submit a little
Background.
preliminary out
Great.
on that. And thank you, and I need to go tonight.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Others, did I see another hand? Doug Bailey.
I'd just like to recognize the Highway Department for a great job this winter cleaning the roads and cleaning up. And I've already seen them on Park Street cleaning out the storm drains and the gardens there and making everything look good. And very early start. I think those guys are doing a tremendous job and should be recognized for it.
Thanks to the Highway Department from the public, and that is definitely something the board also would love it if the town manager could convey the thanks of the board and let them know that there were members of the public tonight expressing appreciation.
Yep.
They do a great job. Thank you, Doug. Others in the room tonight? Something that's not on the agenda that you'd like to bring up? Folks on Zoom, anything not on the agenda you'd like to discuss? Okay. We'll move along. All right, so we have this item 5, consider an irrevocable decision to elect the standard allowance approach for ARPA. And did that make it didn't make the packet, huh?
Yeah, you should have an email on there, so.
I was hoping so, but I don't see it.
I don't see
Do you
it.
guys see it?
No.
All right. So there was an email with the motion. I think I found it. Here we go. Okay, so the way that the Treasury's final ruling came down on ARPA was that you can spend ARPA funds on certain types of projects, or you can spend it on general government services as revenue loss replacement. And they further determined that they were going to offer municipalities a standard revenue loss figure of $10 million, meaning that they were going to assume that if your ARPA award amount was less than $10 million, they were going to assume that you were going to be able to use it for general government purposes if your ARPA award figure was under that amount. Am I about right? Yes. So VLCT, the Vermont League of Cities and Towns, which is the organization that gives us a lot of good government advice, has suggested, recommended as a best practice, that all municipalities that are eligible to take this standard deduction choose the standard deduction. I always call it the standard deduction because I think of it in terms of how we're doing income tax, right? It's similar in my mind. You know, like if you choose the standard deduction when you're doing your income tax, you don't have to then document all of your medical expenses and mortgage interest and all this kind of stuff. It's just assumed right there in that figure. So their recommendation is that we elect the standard deduction, the standard allowance approach for ARPA, which has the effect of giving the town the ability to spend the ARPA funds on stuff that would just generally be government-provided services. and not limit it to broadband or sewer or some of the other kind of siloed approaches that they had had. So they have a model motion, which I'm trying to. I'm trying to find this. I found it. This is the VLCT's suggested language. I move that the town of Brandon make the one-time irrevocable decision to elect the standard allowance approach for our ARPA award in the amount of the total award to spend on the provision of government services throughout the period of performance of the grant. I'll take a picture and send it to you. There we go.
And
So that's my motion.
I second that for the sake of discussion.
Okay, so now discussion.
Right.
Board first, please.
So, Dave, this I guess mostly you, is there any downside that you know of to doing this?
Oh, no, trust me, and I tried looking for one, you can ask Seth, I was pretty leery about this.
Yeah, that's why I'm asking.
Eric Hollow, who's not at the RPC anymore, confirmed it with me, and then Kate Buckley at the league said that was, because I was asking her about fundings for other projects, and she's like, why are you gonna do that? Because then you have to go through all this paperwork, just do this standard allowance approach, and you're done.
Yeah, that's what I was wanting to hear.
It sounded way too good to be true.
Great.
Is there any further board contribution on this? Any public comment or questions about this? Yeah, go.
Is there a time limit as to when the ARPA funds have to be used by, in other words, an expiration date?
There's 2024, we have to obligate the funds by the end of 2024, which means designate them for projects and possibly even enter into contracts. But then there's a period after that,
To actually
2 more years. So 2026.
We got plenty of projects, all we gotta do is approve them, so.
And plenty of time.
Tricia Welch.
Does this mean that there'd be more money available for doing paving in the town of some of the dirt roads?
So that would be a general government service provision that would be eligible for, yes. Yep. It could be a candidate project for some portion of it, or however it kind of shakes out once all the projects get prioritized.
Right.
Bill Moore.
How about rec? No, just kidding. But a question, does this mean that you guys can give this money out to organizations that exist outside of the municipal government?
Well, that was an authorized use even without taking the standard allowance approach. And that's the first thing that Dave had in his report about the Fire District 1 and Fire District 2 connection is actually an example of that the board already approved.
But there might be another one coming to the board. I'm trying to actually reach out to that person to discuss it, so.
Jane Coolidge.
How much did we have originally?
Well, we still have the same amount. This is very important. Like, we don't have $10 million now. We just have, we fall into the category of municipalities whose grant from ARPA or whose award from ARPA was less than $10 million, so we're in there. Our ARPA grant, or our ARPA award, was just a little over $1 million. Sue, was it two installments of like 516?
Well, there's a county portion and a town portion, and then they gave us half the town portion and half the county portion, so there's still 2 more.
Okay.
I assume they'll come in 2 more
Slugs out, yeah.
allotments.
But it was, my recollection was like it was 1,017,000 or something.
Yeah.
In that
like
general
one.
range.
Yeah.
Just a little over $1 million.
Yeah.
Other comment, questions, suggestions? These are all good. Okay, if not, are we ready to vote? All in favor of choosing the standard allowance approach for ARPA per the VLCT model motion that I read, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, it's unanimous. All right, and then number 6 could be related. Dave had prepared for last time and provided to us a matrix of estimated costs and funding sources for current projects, and I'll let him talk some more about it.
So, yeah, I wanted to get this, from you guys at the last meeting, just so you could see, get your head around it, before we talked about it today. And I think probably without Tracy here, we should maybe have this conversation a little more in full at the next meeting, but I just wanted to show you guys what we have for open projects right now and funding that we've already acquired and funding that we would need to finish these projects. And then I broke it down on the end there, on the bottom. This shows what we would need for, what we have for total costs, what we have for outside funding, and what remaining costs would be. Obviously, I'm gonna, say, let's please use ARPA for these projects because it's money that we're getting for free, and these are projects all around town that would certainly benefit from it. So, and I can run them off so folks can hear. The Arnold District box culvert, which we're looking at completing this year, we got a $200,000 grant for it, and it's about a $400,000 project. We're hoping to see Class 2 paving grant come through with that this year once V.S.A announces it. So we were eligible for that funding this year, so we should get it. Union Street sidewalk and curb replacement, as you know, we've been working on that. We've had quite a few discussions on that in the select board meetings. Looking at actually using local option tax money from that, if we could do, you guys would have to approve that. And these are just, this is sort of a best, or perfect world result here. Town Farm Road rebuild phase 1. We've talked about this a couple times. Sean had mentioned it in budget that we'd like to try to start rebuilding that road like 0.3 of a mile at a time or whatever, and at least the paved portion down to Richmond Road. So this would be the first 0.3 of a mile in front of the golf course. Rebasing it, putting new drainage in, getting it paved. New salt shed at DPW, we desperately need a bigger one and a better one. We want to push this one that back a little further on our lot so we can prepare for a possible new building down there, so at least it's like we can see it in the future. Newling Woodcraft stormwater, that's on there right now. That's that's through the stormwater master plan work that we've done. A&R is currently funding 100% of that, but I wanted to put that on there just so you guys can see that. And the Newton Road pump station, which funds have already been approved for that, and we're going to be a little short on that, but I'm sure we can figure out how to get an additional 40 or 50K for that. So, but that's where we're at with projects. Again, like I'd love to see if we use some of this free money that we got to get these completed. I think it puts us ahead of the game. I'd really like to see us use our local option tax to put money aside for a highway garage, maybe on a 5-year plan. I think that's doable. If we start with moving this salt shed back, looking at getting that sewer service, the municipal sewer from the pump station down that extra last 100 feet or whatever, and then going from there. But so that's where we're at with these. I certainly would love to have this conversation with Tracy's here too, and see where we go from there.
Does anyone on the board have questions or comments for Dave at this stage, given his kind of final comment that it probably does make sense to talk about this as a full board?
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate you bringing it up a couple of times, and we saw it last time, and we saw it this time, and I appreciate having the chance to talk a little bit. So I noticed you have the Union Street sidewalk as possibly the local option tax. Are there other of those projects that have town contribution that we could also consider as possible local option tax?
You could consider any of them for
I guess that was what my
option.
question
I mean,
was.
that's what it's there for, is for
Yeah.
capital projects.
Yeah.
We've definitely, we're not gonna run out of sidewalks or roads to fix, so
Right.
that's always gonna continue. Just looking at, it's kind of a bigger project on Union Street. I'd hate to see us use all our local option, just for that.
I appreciate that. I was just trying to figure out if there was a reason that LOT only showed up on one, so.
Because that's the only one that we've really talked about using it on. I mean, I don't know, I know it was never approved, but that, it's come up in multiple conversations, so that's why that one was there.
And like the Newton Road pump station, it's similar, the same thing. If we wanted to talk about it, we could do LOT for that.
Or ARPA.
No, I understand.
We're almost there with that one.
Yep.
And, you know, some of these, like, I mean, honestly, like Arnold District box culvert, like, none of, really, these projects aren't like sort of, yeah, let's do this and make it look better. Some of these are necessity.
Oh, I get it.
And with this list being done, it puts us in such a better position with our infrastructure and, you know, Sean and I have been talking a lot about how we want to move forward with town sidewalks too on, you know, do we want to do all concrete or do we want to do more asphalt? Because asphalt's easier to maintain, you know, when we get outside of the sort of downtown area. We can cover more area with, you know, with asphalt than we can concrete. So we're looking at those things too, to like throw in there as, you know, either an annual budget item or an annual local option tax that, let's do $80,000 worth of sidewalk either, so, you know? So things like that, we could certainly, we're not gonna run out of projects.
No, I agree. And happily, our local option tax is robust, and seemingly we aren't going to run out of that anytime soon.
Right.
So, great.
Other board comments? Public comments? Folks on Zoom? Jen?
Have you thought about, the roof at the town hall?
Roof at the town hall? Yeah, this is good stuff. The board hasn't talked about it, certainly. I don't know if Dave and Dennis have talked about it or anything.
Nope.
Let's put it on the list for consideration.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I don't know if you were here at any of our previous meetings, Jan, since the ceiling in this room was done, but we like it a lot.
Oh, I noticed it when I worked an event this weekend. It's beautiful.
It helps with the sound in here.
Good for ping pong.
And the upstairs, they did the ceiling and painted the trim, the pole, you know, the big poles. So it's done a lot of work in the last couple of weeks with that genie.
Right. Thanks to you and the friends for everything,
I'll relay the
for
message.
sure. Public comment from folks in the room tonight about ARPA priorities, infrastructure, funding sources, things of that nature.
Go ahead.
Bill Moore.
So, and something Dave and I have talked about, and that surprised my boss, but, I've had to talked about the tennis court condition down at Estabrook, and looked into that project and looked at this very large project at Estabrook, about $280,000 with a walking trail, but in term, if we were talking about smaller amounts, $80,000 to build a new tennis court, and another 20 would put some asphalt down so we could do a skate park. So just some things to think about. I'm applying for grants this fall for the V.S.A grants again. I applied for it, got denied last year. Hoping with the help of Stephanie and our soon-to-be former rep, Mr. Shaw, that we can maybe get some V.S.A funds for that. But that's something that I'm going to think about for the next 3 years. Tennis people and the skateboarding kids.
Thank you, Bill.
Now, something just popped up here. I thought that the Newton Road pump station was $700-something thousand.
That was the, remember I sent you an email after that, that was the, like, 30-year annual, or 30-year cost associated with running it for that long, that the construction was actually $400,000.
Well, it's the, like
Estimated.
I said, we'll talk about it again in a couple of weeks with Tracy here also, but so that's the reason why we stopped at $360,000.
Well, it was a half of, right. So, we do have, and Sue's in the back too, so she can correct me if I'm wrong, but we've been putting away money in the wastewater fund too. We had to do it per USDA, and, they're now saying, you guys really need to start spending this money. What's it called, Sue? It was like the,
Short-lived asset fund,
Yeah.
but we are spending some of it because of how we budgeted. I don't know if you guys remember when we were budgeting for the wastewater district, we used to budget for these large items that might happen. We pulled those out, and sort of slimmed down the budget and stuck those items, figured we'll cover those items with that short-lived fund and increase the amount that we're putting into that short-lived asset fund. So as we've hit something that doesn't have a budget line item, I've been pulling that money out quarterly for the quarterly reports I give you from that fund to fund that kind of stuff, so.
So there could be some in there to cover our little.
Okay, well, that may change the whole, how much we give for that also in 2 weeks. I just wanted to bring it up before I forgot it.
Right.
So is the 360 that's on here what we had voted previously?
Well, it was 350 and change, so I just rounded it.
And that was initially meant to be half of the project cost.
Well, it had a dollar value in it, so.
Right. That, I thought, if I remember right, that was what we agreed on to fund half of the project through the ARPA
That
funds.
was my recollection also.
That 400,000 just jumped out at me, just didn't seem right.
Well, I think that, you know, we will benefit from next board meeting, be able to take a look at this, plus whatever Jim and the energy folks are asking for. We can, you know, see if there's anything on our previous matrix from ARPA, remember that we had, but we had to eliminate a lot of stuff that came in as suggestions from the public because it wasn't eligible the way that we were at first going to be able to spend the ARPA money. And now I would think almost all of those suggestions would in fact be eligible, so maybe we revisit that at the same time. I think that the smartest thing for us to do is just to kind of take a very comprehensive view of all of these things and figure out the best way to pay for everything with funding sources, including ARPA and including, you know, other sources that we've been able to use in the
So,
past.
just so folks know too, like, the total cost of these projects on this are just under $2 million, and we're receiving outside funding of 1.1 million. So we're getting a very large chunk of money in from grants and, well, mostly grants actually, which leaves about $815,000 left to fund, which, you know, between ARPA and local option, the money's there. And, you know, I guess overseeing this stuff all the time, like, I hate to see us go into debt more than we should, you know, like, I'd rather see us sort of paying off our credit cards, I guess, you know, like most homeowners want to do. And, you know, put ourselves, I mean, we're in a good financial place now, but I think we should stay there. And if we've got the funding to do whatever projects, we should spend it, you know, and our general fund's nice now, and, you know, our delinquent taxes are coming in quicker now. So we're in a good space, and I think we should just use this money. That's what it's there for, and get this stuff done.
It'll be interesting to see what the Energy Committee comes up with next time, because if in fact they suggest a solar project, which was disqualified from ARPA last time, that could actually generate revenue, which would further put us into a good position as a town. So it's going to be a great discussion next meeting.
I just wanted to bring it up because I'll forget about it next week.
No, it came up, Dave and I had a brief phone chat about exactly that same thing within the last couple of weeks. Is it, maybe for next time, we start with this, the suggestions that we just had tonight, and maybe we revisit last summer's ARPA chart or whenever it was that we were looking at the ARPA chart. And then we know we're gonna get some info from the Energy Committee about proposals. I think just kind of having it all on the table at the same time would probably be good.
Are we able to get a total of what our local options tax fund has in it, what we have left in ARPA?
Yeah, so
to
gives
go
that-
along with this.
So
we
gives
can
that
look
to you
at
guys
everything.
with all the quarterly statements,
Yeah.
quarterly stuff, so you should have the latest.
So will there be a quarterly statement before the next meeting?
Yeah, it should be.
Or
Yeah,
at least
we're working on it now.
At least like a, you know, a dipstick
But I want,
kind
and
of check.
I'll put some notes about because there are some things that need to come out of the LOT. We still have not taken the money out for Park Street, which is about $135,000. So there's some stuff that needs to come out and some money out of, I'm just waiting for Jackie to finish, finalize things, but I'll put notes there so we know that needs to come out.
So did we authorize it and it hasn't happened, or did we
You
not
haven't even
authorize it?
No, I'm just waiting for everything to get tied up so I'd like to come to the next meeting with that, actually, if we can get things tied up. But at least before the year end, I want to tie up Route 7 if we can. I don't, Dave knows more about that, and
Well,
Park
yeah,
Street.
there's not gonna be any more money exchanged with that, the balancing change order is like $150. So,
So there's just to tie up these funds, there's about
Yes, we're gonna-
27,000.
have to talk about Park Street, because I thought we were done with that, because I'm closing that project out right now.
Good, yeah, fine.
I mean, there's not, wait a minute, I got an invoice on that since Mike fixed the intersection.
It's in the mail.
It's in the mail.
Okay, anything else? Yes, Jack?
Is there a payment coming in from the Davenport solar array? And if so, what would that be used for?
I'm not aware of what stage they're in. I know they filed for this, for certificate of public goods.
Yeah, they haven't built anything.
That was all I heard.
So that, what, I'd have to pull up the memorandum that was done with the select board, and probably Bill can say, because I know a lot of it was going for, and like revolving loan, and there was something else, but.
Bill Morris got his hand up to
Yeah.
offer some thoughts.
Yeah, so there's an initial payment of, a little north of $100,000 for, some was for infrastructure and some was for economic development. I think I shared that letter with the Energy Committee, but just as a reminder, I don't have an idea where they are with, where they got their certificate of public good in their court as far as when they're gonna start building, but we do have that memorandum that we'll hold on to. In fact, I think former Selectman Bailey was there and helping to arrange that.
Yeah, I wasn't aware that we had actual defined usage, but I know economic development was the intent of the money, along with, maybe a project, but, yeah. I was wondering how that was going, if it was.
And does that payment start on commissioning of the system?
Yes.
I got a ways to go.
Yes.
I wanted to comment on
Yes.
on the earlier conversation a little bit. I really like what Dave said about, being able to maximize these funds along with our options money and get these projects done. We've been kicking around that Arnold District culvert for 5 or 6 years or more, and it's a project that has to get done, and it's great that we have the money. But I also like what Tim said, because I had my hand up to, but I hadn't been called on yet, to see if we could go back to that solar project that would create income down the road, which would kind of keep us on a positive curl from the ARPA funds. So if that's, and I don't know what those monies, how much money, where we were looking at that solar project, but, I knew that, I knew from reading it, there was a initial money, and then after the project was paid off, where it was gonna be a regular steady flow of income, which would be nice, because we don't have that in our budget in many areas anymore, so.
Yeah, one thing with the solar array, like, this was easy for me to do because I have figures in front of me, like.
Exactly.
I don't know, like, we don't have any numbers, or, are we gonna have to purchase land? Like, if we had a list of what the costs were.
It'll be interesting to see what the Energy Committee comes up with, and I appreciate it's harder to compare than your nice tightly constrained numbers, because that's what's really great about your sheet, is that there it is.
Well, that's, bids pending, it
Yeah.
could change the minute we open bids, but.
No, but still, I appreciate the clarity that comes from this, and certainly I also recognize the challenge of putting hard numbers on something like the solar. But I think it's possible, so we'll see what the Energy Committee comes up with.
Thank you, Jack. Anything else to be said on this? Okay, if not, we will
Can I have one last
anticipate.
second?
Yeah.
Sorry. A quick side note, all of these projects are the benefit to everybody, but when we put the money into the sewer or pump stations, then it's on a separate side of the ledger that we always did do loans on that, because that was a user-based fee versus something for everyone else. So I just throw that out, that,
So, that's a good point, Doug, and, one of the problems that I've, kind of the fight I've been with the Newton Road one, is it's in such disrepair that if it stops
Yep.
working, it's gonna cost us money, because the state's gonna fine us, and, we went through that with with a sewer line a few years ago, so, that one's sort of like, it's Steve even keeps saying, we should have fixed this 20 years ago. I mean, we have, what I said it a few times, we have more parts in the garage at wastewater than we do parts that are in that thing because it breaks all the time.
I'm not saying not to do it, I'm only just reminding the fact that in the past, the sewer stuff we bonded and it went on a user fee kind of thing, where roads and bridges we did a different way. So I just threw that out.
This is a pretty, like, one of these, and like, I wouldn't think about doing like, the one down on the end of Carver Street, or, where's the other, like, up at Brookdale. But this one does kind of serve all of, that North Street area, so it's a pretty major station there, and it's, not very far away from the river, in a floodplain anyway, so, it's just waiting to stop working,
Thank you, Doug. Okay, so we're gonna anticipate this also being on next board meeting agenda, if you could ask Maureen to start that. Item 7 is consider a new cruiser purchase. So there's a cover letter and some quotes. There's 3 quotes and so forth, and a recommendation from Chief of Police. And Dave, do you want to introduce it? Dave Atherton?
Sure, I was going to hand this over to Chief if he's still with us. I know he texted me and said he was having some problems. So there he is.
There he is.
He's back. So, actually, Chief's done all of the research on this, so if he doesn't mind, I'd love to have him talk about it.
Oh, thank you, and I apologize about my technical glitch here. It took me a little while to reboot my internet at home, so. So I've done some research. We're definitely in need of a cruiser. Our fleet is aging out right now. Our oldest cruiser is almost 13 years old, so we're definitely in need of a new cruiser. Priced it out with different dealerships, and there's also been an issue with availability. A lot of dealerships just can't deliver, never mind police cars, but even civilian cars right now because of the chip shortage. The 3 dealerships that I got quotes from, 2 of them are unable to get us cars, and actually told me that they're already looking at 2023 or beyond to order cars. G-Stone Motors, which is our local dealership in Middlebury, was able to guarantee us a car, and it could be here by August, which is phenomenal, because like I said, there's a really big shortage of police cars right now. Their price came in a little higher than the others, but all the quotes that I got from the other dealerships didn't include lighting. I ended up ordering, when I looked at the quotes for them, Ford has it's called Ready for the Road package, which they'll install all the police lights and emergency equipment with the exception of the police radio, which, to save money, we're actually putting in one of our old ones in our next cruiser, and that'll save about $5,000. That Ready for the Road package, it's guaranteed by Ford. There's no any outside installation that has to be done, so it's all warranted. So basically, when that car comes in, we could put the graphics on it and send it on the road for patrol. So I think we'll get the most bang for our buck if we get it from G-Stone Motors. And like I said, the other dealerships just are unable to get us a car right now, with the exception of them.
Thank you very much, Chief. Thanks for presenting this and for the summary of it. It was a pleasure of the board on this. We can discuss before we have motions.
Yeah, I have a question just in general. It seems like the Green Fleet policy calls for us to explore options having to do with emissions before we buy vehicles and things. And so I wondered if there's been any consideration of an electric vehicle.
So again, our chief did some research on this because there were rumors amiss that Richmond had one, and seeing as how he's a Richmond resident, he went and talked to the chief there about what they use their electric vehicle for. So I don't know, Dave, you want to share that with us?
Absolutely. So I spoke with Chief Kapitansky from Richmond, and last year he ended up purchasing a Tesla, I believe it's a Model 3, for the town of Richmond. The total cost for that was about $58,290. I had a very lengthy conversation with him about it, and I've known him for a while, so I trust his opinion on things. And he definitely said there's pros and cons to an electric vehicle. what it boiled down to was, he said, right now the technology just is not there for it to be a practical police vehicle. Some of the pros, he said, obviously, whereas it's an all-wheel drive vehicle, it gets much better speed and acceleration because it has electric motors in it. And he said the front trunk room of the vehicle is excellent, but he also said the cons of it were they are extremely small, can't fit a lot of equipment in it, unable to put a prisoner cage in the back. And I thought it was very interesting. He said in decent weather when it's warm, the car will get about 318 miles on a full charge. He said when the weather is really cold, January, February, maybe 150, because it's an electric heater and just the weather really plays havoc with the electric battery. And he also said the ground clearance is really low in it too, so if we have any dirt roads, anywhere we have to get to where an SUV or something with a little better ground clearance would be beneficial. He said this car just cannot make it. He said several times he's bottomed out in it. He's definitely praised electric vehicles, and I am absolutely in favor of electric vehicles. And I have done some research too. I've reached out to the Ann Arbor, Michigan Police Department. They were one of the first departments in the United States to test and evaluate the Ford Mustang Mach-E, which is an electric SUV based on the Ford Mustang. And that vehicle was tested by the Michigan State Police, and it has promise for police work. But that being said, when I spoke with the lieutenant in charge of their fleet services out there, he told me that the vehicle just does not have enough power to power most police equipment. And also there's outfitter issues with equipment, say like prisoner cages, light bars. And he also told me that it won't run a basic police computer like an iPad or a laptop without draining the car. And he actually told me they use it for administrative purposes, and the other one he jokingly called their football vehicle, which they took to football games or details just to have as almost like a demo vehicle to show the technology. But even they acknowledge, as much as they like the car, for patrol purposes, it's just not there yet. I have heard that there is 2024, 2025, I'm not sure what manufacturer it is, they're looking to build a police-specific electric vehicle. If I had to take a guess, I'd say it's Ford at this point. Like I said, Michigan State Police, when they did those tests of the Mustang Mach-E, they praised it highly, especially for acceleration, braking, had everything they would want in a police car. But again, Ford engineers have to work out some issues with it to make it actually a feasible police vehicle, but we're maybe looking at least a couple more years. Do I think the technology is a good thing? Absolutely, and I would love to pursue an electric vehicle. I just want to make sure that an electric vehicle is going to be able to do what we need it to do as a police vehicle. Police vehicles have specific missions, and we need them to do certain things, and unfortunately a lot of these electric vehicles just aren't there yet, but the technology is flying by leaps and bounds, so it's on its way, but just right now I don't think it's a feasible option for us.
Okay, so I'd like to have a couple things for the record, just for clarity. There's many police departments in the country that have Teslas, and they've had them for more than 4 years. I have a Tesla Model 3, and I get 250 miles in the middle of the winter. I have a Tesla Model 3, and I go to Ripton in the woods. I have piano students that live way up in the hills, and I never bottom out. I never have trouble with my car getting in and out of their very steep driveways. They live on dirt roads in the back of Ripton. I would like to see us do a lot more research on the possibility that there's an electric police car that could work for our town. Because all of the research that I've done shows that they're more than sufficient, and in fact, they save police departments money. Another point for the record that I would put in is that the Model 3 Tesla comes with what's called a camp mode, and this is where you can actually take it and spend a night overnight, sleeping in it, because when you fold down the back seat, it's a queen-size bed size back there. And I tested this to see what it was like, and spent the night out in northern Maine somewhere, so I wanted to try it out. And I spent overnight and only lost 20 miles, keeping the car at temperature all night long. I run my electronics in my car hard all the time, and it doesn't diminish the mileage. So we need to do a lot more research before we disqualify electric cars.
So, I understand where you're coming from, Tim, and I do appreciate that, you have one, so you know.
Yeah.
But, I do know that, like, our police department, they're in their cars all day, every day. However, we do have an energy committee that can do this research, whereas we shouldn't really be relying on our police chief to have to come to the board with all this stuff on electric vehicles, because he should be out there fighting crime,
Agreed.
I mean, this is where, I know Dave spent a lot of time on this in the last week, and we have a committee that can do that. They
I
can bring a
agree.
recommendation to the board if they, if that's the path we should go down.
I think that's a great suggestion. Let's have that happen. Let's have the Energy Committee come up with some research for possible, police car.
So, however, though, with that said, I would like to stand behind Chief on this one, that right now, we have 2 old Chargers that are completely useless vehicles, to be honest with you. They're rear-wheel drive, they're horrible. And they're, what are they, Dave, 13 years old now? I think they're 13.
One of them's 2009, and it's actually, right now it's out of commission, and so we actually have to get it repaired to the point where we'd be able to trade it in. It's actually rusting through in the sheet metal as well.
I think, I would like to see us go forward with getting, the vehicle from G-Stone this year.
Well, the vehicle that he's talking about getting, I believe, is a Ford Explorer. And the one we're replacing is a sedan.
Yeah.
So it's a bigger vehicle, and it seems like if we're going to be replacing it, we should replace it with a sedan. It seems like we already have other vehicles that serve that purpose. I mean, part of the benefit of having multiple vehicles is having different ones that have different functions. And so I question whether we should be getting another Explorer.
I would guess that the new Explorer is probably going to be more fuel and energy efficient than the 2009 rear-wheel drive Charger that we have right now. I mean, I'm
That's
sure
true.
that, especially if it has that turbo, what is it, the Turbo 4 that's in it or whatever, I mean, those things go like crazy. So, I think we probably would save energy costs with a 13.
Well, I'd like to see the analysis, because I think that that's part of what the Green Fleet policy calls for, is the explicit exploration of that. So if the claim is we're going to save energy by going to a new vehicle and getting rid of the Charger, I guess I'd like to see that.
So again, I think that should be energy committee related and not our police chief having to prove to me or the select board that this car is going to be more energy efficient than the last one we have.
That's a good process, and so sure, let's turn it over to the Energy Committee next time.
So, but again, I still think we need to go forward with a new cruiser this year though. We have a new department and we have aging vehicles and they need something quick.
So how many vehicles do we have?
We have the F-150, we have the 2 Tauruses, we have the Explorer, and those Chargers. There's 2 Chargers right now.
And the truck, is that the F-150?
That's the F-150.
Okay. So is that 8? 6. And
We're down to 6 right now with the Charger that no longer works anymore.
And then I guess the question is, how many do we need? Because that's my other question that I wanted to bring up is, the whole mantra of the energy world is reduce, reuse, recycle, right? And so the first thing is, do we need this many vehicles?
That's up to the board, I guess. I mean, we've kicked this conversation down the road for 5 years.
Yeah, no, I agree.
But if we change that, we have to remember that our union contract and the conversations we've had allows an officer to take a vehicle home. So that would be something that we wouldn't be able to offer people if you had more people than cars.
Right.
Absolutely.
I'm not-
Or any decision, I mean,
I'm not
we're certainly having a
representing
conversation, in a decision for a full
Sure.
board.
I'm up for a full board, yeah.
So Chief Kachajian, I'm hearing some desire on the board to talk some more about this at the next meeting. I see the date on the quote from G. Stone is actually March 4th. Do you know how long their quote is valid?
It should still be good for quite a while.
Okay, good. So Tracy will be here next time. Jack is here from the Energy Committee. Is the Energy Committee able to take up some research on the topic?
We've done a little research already, and we can certainly do more.
Awesome. That would be cool if at the next meeting, we could kind of talk about it with an eye to making a choice. Is that reasonable? Public input, Doug Bailey.
At the time of our budget meetings in December and January, the discussion was stated that we had too many police cruisers. Knowing now that used vehicles are selling for higher prices than they have in many, many years, I would question whether we should get rid of both Dodges at the same time.
Well, unfortunately, the town purchased them both at the same time, and one, I think the one we're trading in, we're getting $2,000 for, that's how bad it is. So, I don't know if there'd be.
Is the other one, are we still using the other one?
Yep. The other one's
We've had
still,
one parked for a while.
yep. I'd be afraid of someone kicking the tires on one of them.
I'm just saying, if we have too many, we should get rid of them now versus later. Thank you.
Further public input, Jan?
So during the budget meeting, I thought the board decided not to fund a vehicle in the capital piece.
Excellent point. That is a question. So there was no half a cruiser popped into the budget for July. Is it because we had already accumulated a full cruiser?
We have enough
What's the deal?
we have enough for a cruiser right now from the last couple of years, so.
So if the cruiser quote is coming in at more like 45,000, that is like 3/2 of what we used to talk about as a half a cruiser kind of thing. So we've got three $15,000
I thought Jackie
set
told me there
asides.
was 60, and I'd have to look, but I know we
But,
have.
but
enough.
anyway, yeah, okay. So I guess it sounds like it doesn't require funding from the budget year that's about to commence, that was just approved at town meeting, that it's gonna be funded from set-asides that we made in the 3 or 4 previous budget cycles,
Okay.
sounds like.
And we had a considerable amount of, like, rollover money for PD last year too, so.
Maybe that would be a good figure to have, like firm at the next meeting also.
Yeah, so.
That'd be good. Other public comment? Other ideas? Great points. Thanks very much, Chief. Thanks for all who made contributions tonight. Did you have some final comment on it, Chief?
Oh, no, thank you very much for hearing me out regarding the cruiser. And if you have any questions for me regarding those quotes or even the research I've done for the electric vehicles, please feel free to let me know.
Great, thank you. Okay,
Can I say something?
absolutely. Tricia
I
Welch.
would hope that the research is done comparing apples to apples. In other words, not comparing just an electric vehicle to the gas vehicle, but a cruiser and the unique needs that a cruiser has, and especially one in Vermont, as opposed to you owning a Tesla, that's great, but you're not a police vehicle. So that's it.
Right, thanks.
Very good. So police-specific kind of outfitting of them and performance, I guess, police performance. And it goes the other way too, right? I know that Chief Raquel, often when the board was trying to squeeze a couple more nickels out of a trade-in on a cruiser, he used to say, you know, guys, it doesn't have a carpet, it doesn't have, you know, there was this list of stuff that they don't have, you know, because they have other purposes that they need. Don't expect to get real money for them. Okay, if no objections, we'll go into the fiscal item, which is the warrant, $128,622.69. What's the pleasure of the board on that?
Make a motion to approve that.
Thanks.
Very welcome.
Is there a second? Oh, sorry. Motion for Mr. Coolidge and a second for Mr. Markowski. And are there any questions on any of the bills? Pretty standard set of invoices tonight.
No pizza on there.
No pizza on the bills, says Bill. Any public comment on the bills? If not, we're ready to vote. All in favor of approval of the warrant as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? It's unanimous. Okay, so at this time, the room has cleared, but are there any announcements for the good of the community? We try and do a little bit of that. Doesn't sound like it. Okay, so if not, we're going to go to recess and then we'll do the 2 executive sessions and adjourn the meeting. Thank you all.